بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Thank you very much, dear brother Ibrahim, and I am very much pleased to be with you this night, and I really thank our brothers in the United Ulama of South Africa and the Palestine Information Network and the Al-Quds Foundation for organizing this very important session. In my very limited time, I will talk about this projection of the Zionist state, talking about the prospects of future. However, I will be using the PowerPoint presentation. So please, could you allow me to share the screen? Can you see with me now?
Yes, we've got you.
Okay, thank you very much. So our topic, and this I will go quickly because the topic is, it is not an easy task to cover it within 20 or 25 minutes. So I will go ahead with the projections for the future of the Zionist occupation in Palestine. So my first point about when we want to study from a strategic point of view, we will be focusing on the first points of strength of the Israeli occupation in our Holy Land. One of the, we have 9 points to focus on to see the reality on the ground. One of the major success of this Zionist occupation is that it had managed to gather in Palestine the largest congregation of the Jews in the world. So they have now almost 7 million Jews inside occupied Palestine, consisting of almost 47% of the Jews all over the world, which could be a success for their project. A second point of importance is their military superiority in the region, in the Middle East. So Israel, or the Israeli state occupation, has an army which is ranked among the top in the world, with the world's most advanced weapons from the USA, and it has its own weapon industry with all kinds of weapons of mass destructions, including more than 200 nuclear weapons. A third point is a relatively stable political system within the area of the Middle East, which is capable of managing the differences among the Israelis or among the Zionists inside Palestine, although they are coming from more than 100 countries with almost more than 70 languages. But for the last 75 years, they managed to were capable to manage the differences among themselves. Although in the last 2 years, they have, some difficulties within their own political system. But still, they can manage. Number 4 is they have comparing with USA and the Western world, and even the Arab petrol countries or oil countries, an advanced economy in which they have a GDP of more than $370 billion a year, and almost $55,000 per capita for each. So this is more than many European countries. So they did manage to reach this. Another point is they have also their own industrial, scientific, and technological advancement in the high-tech sectors, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and other things. Another point is their international support and unprecedented global influence, which was strengthened after the fall of the Soviet Union and after Oslo Accords. Tens of countries acknowledged the Israeli or the Zionist state, unfortunately, which would, strengthened its position in the international arena. Another point of strength is their way of managing the peace process with the PLO, in which they use and abuse the peace process in their favor. They created realities on the ground by multiplying the settlers in the West Bank and by the process, strong and active process of Judaization of Al-Quds, of West Bank and other areas. The reduction of the Palestinian National Project with PLO to just a Palestinian Authority, which is nowadays becoming just as a functional tool in the hands of the Israelis, and also with the normalization or a tatbi'a penetrating the Arab and Islamic environment and political relation with several Arab and Muslim countries, which also strengthened the position of the Zionists. These are some points of strength. Going second, for the points of weakness, Israel is exposed to a number of challenges and risks which may develop in the medium and long run to a serious threat to the future of the Zionist state. One of them is the steadfastness of the Palestinian people in their land and the increase of the Palestinian population in historic Palestine. So nowadays, the number by last year, the numbers of Palestinians passed the numbers of the Jews inside historic Palestine for the first time for the last 55 years. So it gives us a good meaning or a strong meaning that the Palestinians are steadfast in their historic land, and also with the failure of the Zionist project to be the majority in historic Palestine. So Palestinians passing the number of 7 million inside historic Palestine, although they are only half of the Palestinians of the world. A second point of strength to the Palestinians and the weakness of the Zionist program is the growing strength of the Palestinian resistance, which we know it very well. The majority of the Palestinians are supporting the resistance. Gaza Strip has resistance and stood fast while facing the siege. It is a very strong base and global, giving also a global inspiration for the world, and also strengthening its position with missile force and so on. So we have a strong intifada in West Bank and spirit of strong resistance inside Palestine and outside Palestine. Another point, the continuation of the anti-Israel popular Arab and Islamic environment, in which the overwhelming majority of Arabs and Muslims in the world are sympathizing and supporting the Palestine issue, the cause of Al-Quds and Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, and which is the big reality in our world, and with a very big failure to the Israelis to be or to make themselves as a natural entity among the Palestinians or the Arab or the Muslims in the heart of the Muslim Ummah. Another point is the peace process crisis, which reached a deadlock, and in which the only alternative now to the Palestinians and to the Muslims of the world is to go more for choosing the resistance and gathering all the power of the Muslims towards resistance. So in this case, the Israelis can no longer use the peace process as umbrella for more Judaization in the Holy Land. Another point, the continuation of outside strategic threat to the Israelis, whether Lebanon or Iran, or also the revival of the Muslim powers outside Palestine, the big changes coming and growing in our world. Another point is the West decline in military intervention in the region after the experience of the bad experience of the USA in Iraq or in Afghanistan. In general, USA is no longer very much interested to intervene in the area, and they are nowadays concentrating on the area of East Asia or Indo-Pacific region, trying to face China. So Middle East is getting lower importance in its priorities. Another point is that the Israeli society crisis, which we are seeing nowadays, and which is getting bigger and larger, Eastern and Western origins of the Jews, religious and secular affiliations, widespread manifestations of corruption and disintegration in the society, desire of life and luxury and pleasure, equality of the Israeli fighter also has deteriorated. Also, the Israeli establishment generation, the first generation who led the establishment, has gone, and nowadays they have leaders of the third and fourth rank. So the quality of the Israeli soldier, the quality of the Israeli political leader is deteriorating. And also the quality of the strength of their own community within Palestine. So also Palestinian abroad still preserving their own national and Arab Islamic identity. For your information, more than 75% of the Palestinians abroad, outside Palestine, who are refugees, are still living very close to Palestine, especially in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. So very easy to come and to gather and to join forces against the Israelis. Another point is that still also in the international arena, there is an increasing trends and sympathies with the Palestinian right. We see it in different ways in different countries, with BDS, with countries in South America, South Africa, and many other areas supporting the Palestinian issue, even in the votes in the United Nations. So it is not only areas of strength to among the Israelis, but also they have their own shortcomings. Also, as a state, a Zionist state, there is no strategic depth in which it can be, protected very strongly. It is surrounded with all the Arab and Muslim areas. The technology of fighting or military resistance also is spreading among the military organizations which are trying to fight for their own rights in Palestine. So we have many points of strength to the Palestinians, Muslims, who are facing the Zionist occupation. So what does this mean? It means that, yes, the Zionist project had reached its peak, al-ulu fil ard, but it's starting to have to be seen by its own weakness through different arenas and areas, which we call it in history ظاهرة التكامل والتآكل. They reach the peak, but they no longer can go ahead, and they are starting now downgrading. So in this case, in the near and medium future scenarios, from an academic point of view, there could be three scenarios. One of the scenarios is more Israeli hegemony, influence, and expansion, which we are seeing nowadays by expansion of its relation with some other countries, its military power, its dealing with the matters of Judaization in West Bank, and the establishment of a very, very extremist Zionist government, which is targeting al-Masjid al-Aqsa and al-Quds. So, and trying also to force its own solution to what it's called the Palestinian problem, and so on. And also they are trying to fail or to put Gaza Strip under very strong pressure with this military advancement, and also with the silence of USA and international community. So this is one of the scenarios. But this is what we are seeing. But in the reality, as I told you, there are many points of weakness. So the second scenario is that no, there is still military power and resistance inside Palestine, and Gaza proved to be a castle of resistance through the last 17 years, and managed to defeat the Israelis' aspiration of crushing Gaza. And also there is a growing resistance inside West Bank, and a growing sympathy in the Arab and Muslim world and in the international community. So the second scenario is talking about the conflict and confusion will continue with the points of strength and weakness here, and also points of strength and weakness on the other side. So also the third scenario, however, is the rise of force of resistance in the near and medium future. And here the argument is talking about a new wave by unity and change for forces in strategic environments surrounding Palestine. So talking about the renewal of the Arab Spring, which happened almost 12 years ago, and also the emergence of Unity Revival Project in the region that makes Palestine its top priority and directs the compass towards Palestine and possessing elements of strength. We cannot talk about such a scenario in the very short run. This could happen gradually and maybe slowly, but it is an ongoing process in the favor of the forces of resistance to get rid of and to siege this Zionist project. So these are three scenarios. Nowadays, maybe scenario number two, that the conflict will continue, but we are seeing several signs of the weakness of the Zionist community within historic Palestine, growing points of weakness are now much more clear than before, and growing points of strength among the resistance forces are also seen much more than before. But however, and with this I will end my presentation, what about the long run, the distant future for the Zionist state? Here, maybe very difficult to talk about strategic studies within the short run, but for the very long run, we are sure about the future of the Zionist state from several points of view. First and foremost, it's the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that in Palestine, with this project, Zionist project, inshallah, we will be getting the victory and the liberation of Palestine. We are certain about this, as the sun will rise, and this will happen with the correlation between Unity Project and Jihad, and also correlation between Ummah Revival Project and Liberation. This is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we are very sure about it, but we are not sure about the dates, although we should work for it. Number two is that objective facts and future studies are nowadays telling us about the increasing existential crisis of the Zionist state. So it is increasing by the from the point of future studies. Even among the Israeli scholars themselves are talking about this. Also, increase of crisis leading to diminishing opportunities and elements of strength, which we are seeing by several also studies. So from the academic point of view, for the long run, the major trend is going with that side is the Israelis or the Zionist project will face its, failure. Number 3 is that a very important point here, that Israeli survival depends on the weakness of its surrounding. So the big question is that there is no guarantee for the Israelis that this strategic environment surrounding Israel, which is still very hostile to it, there is no guarantee that the Israelis will continue forever strong, and all their surroundings will be continue forever weak. And whatever related to the normalization in the Arab and Muslim world was just superficial, official, formal normalization, but it never go ahead with normalization with the people themselves. So here is an important point to see. Number 4 is that the norms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe, and here I'm talking with brothers and sisters of ulama, that injustice and corruption cannot prevail. And we can see it as one of the major norms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe. And you know it, I may not take much time with it, but as you know, وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهَا الْفَسَادِ فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ سَوْطَ عَذَابٍ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَبِالْمِرْصَادِ وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا الْقُرُونَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَمَّا ظَلَمُوا وَتِلْكَ الْقُرَى أَهْلَكْنَاهُمْ لَمَّا ظَلَمُوا وَجَعَلْنَا لِمَهْلِكِهِمْ مَوْعِدًا. And in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَيُمْلِي لِلظَّالِمِ فَإِذَا أَخَذَهُ لَمْ يُفْلِتْ. So this is a norm of the universe that injustice cannot prevail and cannot continue forever. Last but not least, movement of history. Here is the point that the Israelis will not continue strong forever, neither will us stay weak forever. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. So if we are talking about distant future, yes, we are sure about our future, but what is important for us here nowadays is to work for the unity of the Muslim Ummah, work for creating awareness among Muslims, overcoming our own internal differences, and uniting and bringing us to the case of Bayt al-Maqdis and Al-Quds as Al-Qadiyatul Jami'a, Al-Qadiyatul Muwahida, the unifying factor among us, in which no Muslim is indifferent with his brother in the case, or when it matters to the case of Palestine. So it is Al-Qadiyatul Jami'a and also Al-Qadiyatul Rafi'a. So the Muslim Ummah know it's if we are united, then we can know how to lead or to put our combats against the enemies of this Ummah and against the Zionist occupation, which is like a cancer in our body, in the body of the Muslim Ummah and in the body of the Muslim world. So we are also, all of us are invited to deal with the case as the issue of the whole Muslim Ummah, and to work more for creating support, all kinds of support towards Palestine, and to steadfast with our brothers inside Palestine for their right of liberation, for their right of return, and for the Ummah to keep Palestine as a Muslim country. Inshallah, Jazakumullah khair, and thank you for taking your time.
Barakallahu feek, Dr. Mohsen. I'd like to thank you so much for that very, very detailed presentation, which obviously unpacks so many layers on the questions that you were asked, which is projections for the future of the Zionist occupation and priorities in international Muslim solidarity with Palestine. I do invite our audience, in the time that we do have left, probably we're not going to be able to have an extensive Q&A session as per the time limit of this particular session, but do post any thoughts or questions in the chat box, and we try to get an accumulated final response from our guests at the end of the presentation at the top of the hour.